All right. Hey there, everybody. My name is Corey Jones, and I'm with Compassion Works for All. And we are a nonprofit here in Little Rock that provides mindfulness meditation programs for folks in jails and prisons. And we've been doing this work since about 2005. Thank you for joining us for this meditation time. If you're joining us live or if you're watching the recording later on, we're super glad to have you here. We are obviously, because we have an entire nonprofit dedicated to it, we are big fans of mindfulness and meditation and big advocates for what it can do for us personally, as well as collectively as a community of people. So we're always excited to be able to share this through the library system, because what better way to come together as a public than through our public library system. So what an excellent place and way to share mindfulness meditation. So thank you again for joining us. Today, I want to talk just for a brief moment about what we do with negative emotions and then focus on that during our meditation time, because we can't escape negative emotions. They're going to come. We're all going to feel them, no matter how positive of a person we are, no matter how happy of a person we are. Eventually, we're going to feel something negative. A lot of us, however, tend to allow those negative emotions to carry on even after the negative event or perceived negative event is over. And that negativity can really narrow down our focus and narrow down what we perceive to be our options for experiencing and encountering life. And to do that, I want to share one quick story. Yesterday, I got to do something that I've wanted to do for a very, very long time, and that is paddleboard yoga. It was one of the most difficult things I've ever done. I've been practicing yoga for a number of years now. I'm not good at it at all, but I love the practice of it. I love the energy that it opens up. I love the flexibility. I love the movement. And so I'm a big fan of yoga, despite not being all that good at it. But I've seen these people out on paddle boards in the Arkansas River at Two Rivers Park here in Little Rock a number of times out on Sunday mornings. And I've actually tried in the past to jump in, but we would have a scheduling conflict or something. But yesterday it finally all came together, and I got to go out and get out on a paddle board and practice yoga. And it was quite terrifying. I've been practicing yoga for a number of years, but I have never actually been on a paddle board. So much less have done paddleboard yoga. So this is my first time to get out there and just see what it feels like to be on a paddleboard, and then trying to do yoga on top of it was quite terrifying, because obviously the big thing is you don't want to fall in. You want to stay on your board. And they tell you at the beginning, the instructors talk about falling in is kind of this thing we all celebrate. When you hear the splash, everyone starts clapping, because it means that you were trying, you were doing something, you got off balance, and you're not going to get off balance and fall in if you're just sitting still on your board. So they celebrate falling in. And you know this and you hear this, but still the whole time you're on your board, you are so tense, not wanting to fall in. And what I realized not long into the practice was that this was really taking a toll on my body. The tension and the anxiety I felt over falling in was making it really difficult to have a good, like one of my good, normal, typical yoga practices. I was very tight. I stayed in this very small area on the board. Yoga, as many of you might know, is really about a lot of opening up, a lot of extension, a lot of really taking up space and being expansive. And I wouldn't do that. I would just stay in this small little area. And finally, the instructor invited us to do a standing pose. And when I went to stand up, my legs were shaking so bad I couldn't hold myself up. And we weren't that far into the practice. And I thought, this is going to be bad if I can't even stand up. But I realized it's because of this anxiety that I was carrying, this tension I felt in my body. It was making every muscle work overtime. And I was working so hard just to keep myself out of the water. So before I stood up, I just took a breath, and I just went headfirst into the water, just on purpose, just dumped myself off my board, because I thought, I'm so nervous about this. This is ruining my yoga experience. So I'm just going to do the thing that I'm afraid of happening. And I'm going to do it on my own without it being an accident. Like I'm going to have control over when I go into the water. And I did. And I came back up, and the rest of the practice, though difficult, I was still on a paddle board. It was fun and enjoyable. And a lot of times that's how we have to confront our negative emotions or our negative feelings, and especially our negative anxieties about the future. Sometimes we just have to walk right into it. We have to dump ourselves into the water to get it over with, to feel all the feelings that it's going to bring about so that we can then move forward and move through it. And this happens in small and large ways. Most of the time, most of our anxiety and our frustrations and our negative thoughts come from all those little small things that take place. It's nothing that's a big deal or that's really traumatic even, but it's just those small inconveniences throughout our day or the small things throughout our work week that we just don't like doing, and we know it's coming up and I'm going to feel bad about it. And if we would just engage with it, maybe do the task, have the hard conversation, whatever it is that we're fretting over, if we would just do it, then we can have a little bit more control over it. And we can reinterpret what it means to have experienced it. We can turn our negative emotions into a positive emotion or a positive telling of the experience. This isn't like Pollyanna stuff. This isn't just, oh, well, everything's just okay and everything's happy. It's not about being naive. It's about recognizing the scope of what an event actually is, the reality of it. In Buddhism, this is called the middle path. You don't go too far to one extreme or the other. Everything isn't all negative. Everything isn't all positive. There's a neutral reality there that exists. I'm reading a book right now. Ooh, there we go. Sorry, I hit my keyboard. I think we're okay. I'm reading a book right now called Increasing Resilience in Police and Emergency Personnel, because we're getting ready to lead Arkansas Community Corrections through a series of classes on mindfulness and resilience. And in this, they're talking about this very subject, about dealing with negative emotions. And so I want to read just one little half paragraph about this. According to one researcher, negativity causes us to narrow our focus in order to protect ourselves. From an evolutionary perspective, it makes sense to hone in on negative circumstances in order to perceive and deal with a threat to our safety. But the problem is that we tend to maintain this narrow focus after the threat has passed, or when we misperceived something to be a threat when it actually wasn't. And so by holding on to this negative feeling, even after the moment has passed, or by holding on to this negative feeling, even when we thought something would be bad, but it turns out it wasn't, it starts to have a really negative effect on us. It can impact our nervous system. It can impact our circulation. It can impact our blood flow. It can impact our stress responses and all of the chemicals that are released in our brain as a result of that, which then in turn makes one negative feeling or emotion pile up on all the others. And pretty soon we are just Johnny Raincloud, as it were, when it comes to most things in life. So all of that to say, I would like to invite us today to consider maybe a negative experience we've had within the last 24 to 48 hours, something that in recent memory was a negative experience for us. And we're going to visit that during our meditation time. And then we're going to think about maybe something that we perceive as a negative experience coming up within the next 24 to 48 hours, something in the near future that maybe we're dreading, maybe we're not excited about. And again, it can be a small or a big thing. For me, the next week is the end of the month, and I always have to do our nonprofit's financial registry to send over to our bookkeepers. And I always dread doing that, even though it takes me all of 10 minutes and it's not a big deal. But I know that it's coming at the end of the month, and I'm about having to do the registry, and it's fine, and it's never a big deal. So maybe there's something like that for you in terms of your job or something else in your life. So I invite you to bring that to mind, something that within the last 24 to 48 hours created a negative emotion in you, and something that in the next 24 to 48 hours you perceive as being negative. And we're going to address those during our meditation time. So go ahead and have those in mind. And sadly, as a negative experience, I have misplaced my bell that I usually begin our time together with. I thought it was here in my office, but it might be at my house. So today we're going to go bell-less and just enter into our meditation time on our own. So that being said, I invite you into a mindful posture. With your feet flat on the floor. Have your back upright. Posture is very important. Have your back upright, though not rigid, but comfortably attentive. And let your shoulders relax. Let your face relax, your facial muscles. Let your forehead be smooth. If you have your eyes closed, keep your eyelids soft. If you have your eyes open, angle your gaze downward. And you can either keep your lips closed where they're just softly touching each other, or some people like to keep their mouth just barely open while breathing in and out through the nose, whatever's most comfortable for you. And in this mindful posture, there are sure to be distractions around you. There are noises. Maybe you hear people talking. Perhaps your phone buzzes. And we're just going to let those sounds and those distractions be exactly what they are. We're going to let them exist without attaching our awareness or our emotions to them. And we're going to absorb them into our experience of the present moment. And as we begin to deal with these external sounds and sensations and experiences, we might also start to notice that there are some internal distractions. Sometimes this is called monkey mind. Our minds are racing around like monkeys, unable to be still. Or perhaps you notice sensations in your body, an ache, tension somewhere. It might even be something like feeling your pulse that might become a distraction or feel like a distraction. So whatever it is that you feel internally, just start to name it. If your mind is in another place right now, just name where it is and what it is you're thinking of. If you feel discomfort in your body somewhere, just name what you're feeling. I feel an ache, or I feel tightness. And we're not going to feel the pressure to do anything with it. We're just going to let everything be exactly as it is in the present. And each time you feel your mind drift away, gently bring it back. And you can do that by noticing or bringing awareness to your body, maybe to the place where your feet make contact with the floor, where your hands make contact with your legs. You can bring your awareness to your heart center, to the middle of your chest, or anywhere else that makes you feel grounded and present. And as your mind begins to drift, you can also use your awareness of your breath to return yourself to the present. Just feel the air as it enters in your nose and feel the air as it exits out. And we are not here to block anything out or to completely empty our minds. We're not going to resist reality. We're going to embrace it and welcome it. We're not going to resist the present moment. We're going to embrace it and welcome it. So fully present, fully aware of our body, and fully aware of our breath. Consciously begin to bring to mind that event from within the last day or two that you perceive as negative. And imagine you're back there again. Imagine you're going through the experience again. And if possible, begin to feel the same emotion. If it made you feel sad, begin to let sadness sort of well up inside you. If it made you feel angry, feel that anger again. Remember as much as you can what it was like to be in that moment. And now, with the perspective of hindsight, begin to reframe that moment in a positive way. Without changing what happened, without changing what took place, experience it in a way that highlights and draws out the positive results. Perhaps you learned something. Perhaps it culminated in something that worked out for the best anyway. And if nothing else, as we often say, perhaps it was just a good opportunity to practice being mindful and compassionate. And so reframe the moment in a positive way. And as you do that, sit for just a second with the feeling of strength and resilience that comes from knowing you endured something negative and you're still here today. And in this sense of strength and resilience, let's take in a couple of deep breaths through the nose and out through the mouth. And again, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And now let's move our thoughts to the future, to the next day or two, something that perhaps you're not excited about, or something that you perceive as negative that's coming up. And typically when we look ahead to the future and we have negative feelings associated with it, we tend to label that anxiety. We feel anxious about that which is to come. And so whatever the moment is that you're not especially looking forward to, imagine yourself in it right now, as though it were here already. And see yourself walking through that moment effortlessly, with great ease, perfectly content to be there, dealing with whatever needs to be done. You are bigger than the moment. You are strong and resilient. And even though it's not something you look forward to now, you recognize that there is opportunity for something good to come about as a result. And so take just a moment to sit with that feeling of being in that moment in the next day or two with this sense of strength and resilience. And now with this strength, with this resilience within us, let's take a couple of deep breaths through the nose and out through the mouth. And one more time. And allow your awareness, your consciousness to return to the present moment, feeling strong, feeling resilient, knowing that even in the face of things that are negative or in the face of things that are not easy, you are perfectly capable of not only enduring it, but of thriving and possibly even enjoying the moment. And so with this in mind, take one last deep inhale through the nose and out through the mouth. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Apologize, it is toasty in the room where I am right now. I'm getting sweaty and warm, but feels good, feels good. Thank you so much for being here today, and I hope this is helpful. I hope that you are able to navigate through just the general unpleasantness that we experience throughout our week, throughout our day-to-day, and that you're able to not sugarcoat things and to not be dishonest with yourself, but to feel the negative emotions, but then to recognize that there's always something to learn, always a way to grow, and that you are in more control than you realize over your emotional response to what happens. So that's all I have for today. So thank you, everybody. Have a great week.